online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. I think I say that every week, but it's as good as any way of starting the show, isn't it? Myself, Colin and Bob with you for the next hour. We're reviewing two games, Sunday and Wednesday. They seem odd days to have games, don't they?
They do, yes. Odd days and odd times, but that is football in the COVID times, isn't it? The Sunday game, definitely, I felt we did okay, really, considering that we were playing the team at the top of the division. We were pretty much in the game until the very end, whereas last night's game, you have to say it was fairly comfortable for Watford, really.
Also, we'll be catching up with former manager and chairman Brian Lee, who is also overseeing the move from Lokes Park to Adams Park. It'd be great to hear his thoughts. We'll catch up with midfielder Dominic Gape as well.
And we will be hearing from Emily Hagan, a behind-the-scenes glimpse of life at Adams Park.
That and more to come, but we better start, as mentioned, at Sunday. I don't think that's an actual expression, but I think I meant on Sunday. But yes, as you mentioned, the game against Norwich, which, you know, despite the scoreline, had a number of sort of standout parts of it, not least the 5 substitutions.
Yes, which we think possibly is unique. I don't know whether it's ever been done before in a competitive league game. I certainly haven't noticed anyone making 5 substitutions all at the same time. And you have to say that it worked. And definitely for the 20 minutes after the 5 substitutions, we did look like we might have been able to snatch a very, very unlikely equaliser. It was a really entertaining and interesting game, I thought, the Norwich game. Norwich are fantastic. They passed the ball around really, really nicely. We definitely couldn't compete with them that way. But we did nearly make them pay for not being particularly clinical in front of goal.
I think watching them, you really get the impression that they're a team in form, they're on a winning run, and they're top of the table.
Yes. Although in that Norwich way, you do sort of slightly think that actually they're going to go up and then they're going to spend the whole of the season at the bottom of the Premier League and come back down again.
They need a sort of between leagues league, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Championship Plus, let's call it.
Yeah, that's even better. I like that, Championship Plus, rather than anything to do with the Premier League. Yes, they need to be in the Championship Plus. And I think you could probably say the same about last night's opponents as well, because Watford did play some very good stuff. And I found that just a thoroughly... it was a frustrating game, because as soon as Andre Gray scored for Watford, you never really got the impression that we were ever going to get back into it. And I know that we had the ball in the net early in the second half when David Weeder was adjudged to be offside. But last night you felt that Watford actually pretty much played the entire game in second gear and probably had another 4, 5, maybe even 6 gears that they could have gone up through had we equalised. And actually that possibly then the scoreline might have been slightly eye-watering in a Brentford Blackburn type way, whereas it wasn't like that at all against Norwich. Even though they probably were superior to how Watford played, we hung in there the whole time, and were creating opportunities.
Plenty to be pleased with, and the manager spoke to the media after the game.
Really proud of the boys. We had a plan to frustrate Norwich, and I thought we did that. I thought we did it really well. I actually think we had the better chances in the first half. And it's unlucky not to hit the target, and I think that's something we'll work on with him. But he's so young and so excitable and fearless that he'll take his next one without a shadow of a doubt. And then obviously they score at the start of the second half. We just switched off and just a mistake out on that right wing for Norwich. And Norwich at this level, I've said it so many times, and I thought the subs all made an impact when we changed for the high press. I thought we caused them problems. They're obviously hanging on to a lead, and then the second goal kills us. But that happens sometimes, and we've got to get ourselves together and make sure that next time we come out, which is against Watford on Wednesday, we're fresh, we're ready to go again with the same intensity and same drive. I think at 1-0, they're a little bit nervous, and we probably get maybe chances. We had chances second half. We just didn't take them. And when you've got players of the quality they've got, they do take their chances.
I mean, you did have them on the ropes for certain parts of the match. I mean, we've seen the incident with Offerball on Krul. I mean, what did you think of that?
Anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul to us. Referees saw it opposite. I don't know. I think Namdi's face might have hurt Krul's arm. I think that's what he's give. So we'll have to tell Namdi to stop putting his face in people's elbows.
But I guess it's just one of those decisions again, though, isn't it? They always seem to happen against Wycombe. I mean, do you think you're going to get the rub of the green before this season's out?
It doesn't matter either way. I've asked for it. It doesn't matter if we get it or not. It's about what we do. Defending that second goal was terrible from us. That corner, that's something I've got to pick up on. But the rest of the game, I thought we were really good, really good. I thought that we've caused Norwich a few problems there. We didn't hit the target as much as I'd want to, but we definitely had chances to, and that's the difference, really. I don't think they've hit the target too many times, but it was a cagey game, and for somebody who's 24 places ahead of us, I thought we acquitted ourselves very well and gained a little bit of respect from Norwich. Although Daniel Farke has the utmost respect for us, and I hold him in very high regard. I hope he gets promoted just because of him and the way he is. I think he's a fantastic guy, and he has a good team.
And you made 5 subs all at the same go. I mean, what was the thinking behind that?
Well, to change the game, to change the dynamics of the game, and I thought it worked. I thought we went to the high press, which you can't play from the start. I've seen Norwich tear apart some teams who've tried to press high against them, really tear them apart. And the space, if you concede space behind your back four, a team of Pukki just exploits that like you wouldn't believe. And there was a couple of times he got in today, but not many, because we did it really well. That's their big weapon, and I thought we handled that well. But they have quality all over the pitch, and like I said, the goal they scored, it's a deflection off Josh Knight. It's unfortunate. It took that to beat David Stockdale. The second one's very disappointing for me. But I don't want to talk about disappointment. I want to talk about how Wycombe Wanderers, playing top of the Championship, have really give them a little bit of something to think about. And okay, it's 2-0. Everyone looks at it 2-0. Yeah, that was expected. I'm hoping people watched the game and thought, do you know what? It wasn't probably a 2-0. It was closer than that.
And finally, from me, Gaz, how happy are you that Joe Jacobson is now back playing after a couple of weeks out with an injury?
Yeah, I mean, he's great. But Jordan Obita has just been as good. So I think that's testament to where this club has come now. Joe Jacobson hasn't had a challenge for 6 years, really, at left back. Not an experienced player, somebody who could go toe-to-toe with him. I think Jordan is that, and that shows where we are. I've got Jason and Jack at right back. I've got centre-halves challenging each other and midfielders. We have a good squad. The plan that Rob Courig and Pete Courig are putting in place for this club are Championship, future looking at the Championship. If I can keep them up this year, brilliant. And if not, we are going to be back here. And that's something. That's our long-term plan. And I want to be a part of that. And it's so exciting to see and to speak about Wycombe Wanderers and Championship in the same sentence. It's crazy sometimes, but I absolutely love it and can't wait for the long-term plans to come off. But believe me, they will.
Really interesting to hear Gareth talking so positively, especially after a defeat, but also in detail about the 5 substitutions and wanting to change the game, and you think that could well happen again.
Yeah, and it really did change the game, and actually I felt that we could have probably done with the 5 substitutions maybe a little bit earlier last night, but obviously we only had 3 and then 2. But yeah, I would have made all 5 a little bit earlier, but he's the manager, not me. After the Norwich game, we also heard the thoughts of Dominic Gape speaking to Alicia Povey.
Bit of a stop-start season for you. How does it feel to be back today?
Oh, amazing. Sun's out. Great to represent Wycombe again. To get a start, and unfortunately we couldn't quite take home the points today.
Yeah, some missed opportunities, but overall a good performance for the team. What are the boys looking to take forward to Wednesday against Watford?
Norwich are a really good team, and the gaffer and Dobbo and the staff implemented some tactics that they felt gave us the best chance, and I think the tactics worked a treat. Frustrated them first half, and if we could have just taken a moment or two when it mattered in their final third, then who knows, on another day it could have been more.
And those 5 substitutes in the second half made quite an impact. Does that sort of show what kind of depth this squad has? Yeah,
100%. The gaffer can go 5 subs, try and make an impact on the game, and again had a good positive impact. We had more chances. It's just slightly frustrating to concede again, because I felt like we had them on the ropes a little bit.
Good to have Dominic Gape back in the side, although unfortunately not the results he was looking for. But again, some really interesting points that he made as well.
Yeah, definitely. Really good that he has come back. And definitely, I mean, the previous Watford performance was really, really positive. And so it did make last night's defeat all the more disappointing. But to be honest, I did feel that actually probably there were going to be a lot of games like the game last night, and the fact that there haven't really been that many of them, and that, that we were really in the game on Sunday, again, is all credit to Gareth and the team.
You just read my mind, actually, because exactly the next thing I was going to say was, I happened to see that you tweeted that game was how you imagined a lot of the games against the top sides in the Championship would be, and it was a real credit to I feel like just repeating what you said now. It was a real credit to the team that so many of them haven't been.
But it definitely was, and I think we all probably felt a bit like that actually, there were going to be some really tough afternoons and some tough watches. And if we're honest, there haven't been that many. Yes, okay, I know we say it every week now, but yes, Blackburn and Brentford, those were fairly unpleasant to watch. But other than those two, we have been pretty competitive in most games. And last night was the first time, really, other than the two thrashings, where I was watching, and as I say, as soon as Watford were 1-0 up, I just didn't really feel that we looked like we were going to be able to get back into it. And even if we had, I felt that the opposition that we were playing, clearly were going to be able to just, basically turn on the skill. A little bit like happened in the Spurs game, where, yes, we were, to all of our credit, in it with 5 minutes to go, and then all of a sudden their class showed. And I felt, playing Watford last night, they looked much more actually like a Premier League side than some of the teams that we've faced this season. And again, arguably even Norwich, which is why, I said I feel that possibly Norwich will go up, but maybe that they're a little bit naive and that they will probably come straight back down again, whereas Watford, you feel, have possibly got a little bit more about them, and possibly will, if they do go up, will manage to stay there.
Join us next week on the Wycombe Wanderers Show when Colin repeats exactly what Bob just said. That's what all the great double acts do.
Indeed.
That's a great tribute.
I'm impressed how much you've read the script this week. It's really good.
I almost took your line, you might say. But no, it really stood out as a good point. I thought that, before, let's call it pre-Championship, you imagined that, and I think a lot of non-Wycombe supporters as well would have thought, we're going to get turned over a lot, and that's not been the case.
Definitely. I think non-Wycombe fans thought, every week we're going to see, scores of 4, 5, 6-0, that Wycombe are going to easily get the least amount of points in the Championship ever. And the fact that no, actually, we haven't done that. We have competed pretty much every game. Definitely, credit to Gareth, credit to the players, credit to the Kuhigs, the players that they've been able to bring in. Clearly the big thing is going to be, can we keep some of these players next year to actually start our assault on the Championship again in League One, if we are in League One. And I think mathematically now it's beginning to come slightly more into view actually what we need to do, and I think probably we have to start being a little bit more realistic. And I picked up Gareth being a little bit more realistic, I think, last night when he was speaking to Phil Catchpole.
A tough game here at Vicarage Road, a 2-0 defeat, and any positives to take from that?
Uchi was again a thorn in the side of the defenders at the the wrong end of the pitch. It was a tough game, Phil. We didn't give a great account of ourselves, if I'm being honest, and we've done a lot better in games recently. Even Sunday, I thought we were outstanding against Norwich, and maybe there's a fallout from that, from the efforts we put in there. Tough Wednesday night, and if you're not on it against one of the top teams in the league away at Vicarage Road, you get punished. We found that out, but we'll bounce back, no problem at all. I'll pick the boys up for Saturday's game against Stoke, and looking forward to it.
When you said you were disappointed with some of the performance tonight, was it a case of Sunday, Wednesday, Watford an extra day? Did that play into it?
Maybe, it is tough. It's really tough, this COVID stuff and everything, and all these fixtures being crammed in together. It is tough for the squads for the teams with smaller squads. But like I say, I'm really learning a heck of a lot about the Championship. There is so much quality in this division. The gulf is immense, honestly, really is, especially from the top sort of 5-6 teams to the rest of the league. And then there's a little gulf, and then there's probably a group at the bottom, and we're in that, of course we are. We need a pretty good run now to keep us in the Championship. We've done it before, but that was in different leagues. This is going to be tough. Looking forward to Stoke, picking the boys up tomorrow. Let's go again.
9 from 13. I mean, I'll give you a positive. You haven't got to play Watford and Norwich again this season, but 9 wins from 13, Gareth. I mean, even the fairy tales might not be writing those sorts of stories.
Listen, I'll keep believing. You know I will. I'm loving it. I wake up every morning, lucky man, manager of a football club in the Championship. I'm loving it. I'm learning, like I say, a heck of a lot. 9 from 13 does sound ridiculous, but who knows? Wycombe Wanderers could do it. I'm sure if anyone can. But we weren't just at the races tonight, and take that one on the chin, pick the boys up, and we'll go again Saturday.
It is about picking the boys up. They came off the pitch tonight. They looked a bit tired, and a few looked a bit dejected as well. And is that the challenge now, week on week, to keep picking them up when they're at the bottom of the table?
Don't be down, don't be dejected, because do you know what, if you give your best, that's all I can ask for. I give my best, and if it comes up short, it comes up short, but just make sure you don't leave anything out here, and you're giving your absolute best to win that game. If that's the case, then we just weren't good enough tonight, and that's a hell of a team. But when you got the money on the team that they've got, I mean, some of the players are just phenomenal. You know, Premier League players, and fair play to them. Great techniques, some good finishes, some outstanding skill. But the disappointing thing is we have matched those teams and beat them in the past. Wasn't going to be tonight. Like I say, can't wait for tomorrow now. I've got a picking up job to do, which I love that as well.
Despite the results, Gareth, I mean, you've got a big smile on your face here as well. I mean, as a manager, personally and professionally, you must be learning a lot as well this season too.
Oh, wow. When I took over this club, I think we were 5th bottom from League 2, you know, so to be in the Championship, how can I not smile? It's the best thing in the world, honestly, and I have massive admiration for all the managers who stay in this Championship. You know what, Nigel Clough a few years ago was keeping Burton in this league. Wow. I knew it was a good achievement then. It's a phenomenal achievement, and hopefully we can match it. We'll see. Looking forward to Saturday now, and hopefully we can get a win there.
Like you say, a bit of a different tone from Gareth speaking to Phil Catchpole there. Very grateful to Phil. Do check out his Ringing the Blues podcast as well. But you also noticed that there was quite a different sort of tone from fans online, especially after that game as well.
Yeah, I was looking on Twitter after the game and quite hastily stopped looking on Twitter because there was a lot of negativity, a lot of, if we carry on playing like this, you know, we're going to get relegated next season from League One, let alone being relegated this season. And again, you just think, you know, listening to all the points that Gareth made there about Watford, and just, you know, the gulf in the Championship is absolutely enormous between ourselves, who were a small team in League One, and teams like Watford and Bournemouth. You know, Bournemouth, who were earlier on in the season, were able to field £99 million worth of talent against us. That again is why I say, you know, that actually when you look at the season, it's completely to Gareth and the team's credit that there haven't been more games like yesterday and like the 5-0 and the 7-2. And I think we have to remember who we are and the fact that actually, you know, yes, we of course we want to stay in the Championship, but I wonder what some of the people who've been criticising the style of play, first of all, I slightly wonder, well, which team do they think they're supporting? You know, Wycombe have a particular style of play. We've pretty much always played that way. We weren't particularly going to change that in the Championship. You know, what do these people expect us to suddenly start playing the sort of the Barcelona style, passing it around type football? You know, that's not Gareth at all. He's done so well to get us to where we've got to. What are they saying? That actually they want us to discard him and bring in another manager, which is what, you know, goodness me, 99% of new owners probably would have done it in the situation that Wycombe are in at the moment. But no, of course, none of us want that. You know, we are Wycombe Wanderers. You know, Gareth Ainsworth is such a part of the club, and you know, complete hats off to him. We should be so grateful that he is still manager of our football club, because he could have so easily at any time over the past few seasons gone to QPR, at any of the local teams, clearly, you know, very linked with Blackburn as well and Preston. But no, he's chosen to stay, and I think we should just appreciate, and all the people who were singing his name in July, who are now calling for not necessarily his head, but for the team to start suddenly adopting completely different tactics, really need a bit of a reality check.
And I think supporters as well, often what they write online straight after a game isn't very objective, because they're the same people who are saying, we're going down, and then you get a win against Huddersfield, a comeback win against Huddersfield, and they're saying we're still in this, let's go.
Exactly that, isn't it? And that's why the so-called football moan-ins on radio shows are so popular, because fans do exactly that. And yes, we've got Stoke City now on Saturday. It's not going to be easy. Stoke are currently mid-table. They've got 45 points. They've won 11 games, drawn 12. But even so, if we manage to get a victory against them, then that actually a lot of those people who were criticising last night will start being positive again, and praising the manager and whoever possibly might score the winner, and begin to speak about, well, you never know, actually, we might be writing another story. So I think I think you do have to just take a breath after a loss before then going, all sort of guns blazing, as some people did seem to last night.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll be catching up with the club's Commercial Operations Executive, a title I
well done.
failed to wholly remember earlier, and also former manager and chairman Brian Lee, on the way next.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll take a behind-the-scenes look from the club to the club, with the Commercial Operations Executive Emily Hagan as well, not least because it's International Women's Day on Monday. That was part of the reason anyway. Coming up next, though, very grateful to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, JDT and Alan Hutchison, for our regular chats with former players. But this week we are speaking to a former manager, a former chairman, and someone who oversaw the move from Lokes Park to Adams Park. Fantastic to get his thoughts, and hopefully he won't mind me saying, if he does, we can edit it out for the podcast, that Brian Lee on Sunday celebrated his 85th birthday, and I've been speaking to him about his memories of his first connections with the club.
I was director of Bisham Abbey, and I also was coaching via the Football Association, Oxford University, which is a unique job because it ends, as it were, with the varsity match in December, so it's like a 3-month season. And I had a phone call via Frank Adams from a man called Thompson, who was one of the committee men at Wycombe. And through Frank Adams, I'd been recommended by the Football Association. But when I said that, but I'm coach to Oxford University, yeah, but this is Wycombe Wanderers. I said, yes, but my word is my word. So anyway, they waited until after the varsity match, and then I was free to take on Wycombe. So it was 68 or something.
So what were your impressions when you first started?
Well, I didn't know too much about the Isthmian League because I'd moved from Lilleshall, another national centre in Shropshire, and where I was managing Wellington Town in the Southern League. And that was totally different. It was semi-professional football as against amateur, clearly amateur in those days, etc. So, yes, there was a big... so I just was unaware of it, and then obviously learnt as I went on.
And did you have in mind a particular style that you wanted the team to play in?
Yes, I mean, I always try to play attacking football, always try to employ footballers, as it were, and people who can listen to instructions and carry them out are very valuable nowadays. They may not be the most skillful ball players, but they all put them together and you get a team.
Are there any particular sort of matches or occasions that particularly stand out during your time in charge?
I mean, the one thing I regret, we won, I think, the Isthmian League 3 or 4 times, and we finished second a couple of times, I think, if I remember. But the only thing we didn't do well was we did have a good run in the FA Cup with the Middlesbrough game, etc. But the one thing that I didn't do very well for the supporters was the Amateur Cup. I didn't do very well in the Amateur Cup and let them down, which I regret.
It must have been so pleasing for you, though, that the players that you were able to bring in, as mentioned, we've spoken to former players who said, how persuasive and what a great influence you had in helping them as well in kind of settling into the area and also to the team.
Yes, I mean, you're playing football for a short period of time, but you spend a long time together, so you want to make sure they all get on, and everybody calls, a team spirit, which is obviously what it is, but you've got to make that a bit different and a bit special if you possibly can, and we achieved that. Some people came and I got them jobs and helped them to relocate to schools and different things, university.
And also your connection at Bisham must have been extremely useful as well. I know that the team trained there, and also you're able to have sort of friendlies with teams like Tottenham as well. Yes,
again, because of Bisham Abbey, and before that, I was at Lilleshall, where the England team trained in '66 for the World Cup and all that, so I was quite involved in that. So yes, you get to know them, and you sit down in the evening, and you just chat and natter. I mean, I used to talk with Alf Ramsey into the early hours of the morning. Out of that becomes a spirit, you know what I mean?
No, definitely, and great to have those contacts and connections as well.
Oh yes, but I think everybody, wherever we played, they were always very impressed with us as a club, not the team, not just the players, but the whole entity. Of how we presented ourselves, how we played, courteous and grateful, and so on.
And that's something that really seems to have followed throughout the years, even to this day as well. Wycombe seems to be such a family club, and you speak to former players and indeed managers as well who say that there is something really special about the club.
Yes, I think it has pervaded through, and if it has got anything to do with it, then I'll be very proud of it. I mean, when I did arrive, it was rather barren, if you know what I mean, and they played in the as amateurs in the Isthmian League, and they travelled, but it was definitely, when I got there was no spirit. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
No spirit. So first thing was when we changed players, and it was the manager's responsibility to make sure that he got the right players in, selected the right players, and developed the club in the right way. And you only do that if you've got the right people around you.
And there does seem to be such a great sort of camaraderie as well amongst the group, hearing stories about how the wives and girlfriends always travel with the team, and they socialise together as well.
Yes, that's right, and my wife always used to have a Christmas party at Bisham Abbey for the wives and the girlfriends, and to say thank you for the support. Yes, little things like that are important.
You must have seen so many changes at the club, obviously, throughout the time you've been connected with it, but especially when you were manager and also going on to be chairman as well.
Yes, I think it was. I think that the difficult time was that we just had to move the ground. You can't obviously put football before a hospital, and the hospital needed to expand onto our ground. It was quite straightforward. They haven't done actually as much as they said they were going to do on the actual pitch, but nevertheless, the hospital came first, so we had to move, and it's about finding somewhere. And the biggest regret about Wycombe, people speak, as you've been speaking, quite highly of Wycombe Wanderers. The only people who didn't speak highly of them was Wycombe District Council, Wycombe Borough Council, Wycombe District Council, whichever it was. We had no sympathy from them whatsoever in finding a new ground, and when we'd found a ground, and then we go through support for the development of the ground. It was all extremely difficult. So eventually we were forced out to Hill Bottom Road, and we went to Hill Bottom Road, and I went with a colleague, an architect from Cambridge, who one Sunday morning met there, and we looked at this ground, which was on a hill, and I said to him, "Do you think we could build a football stadium there?" And he said, I'll never forget his words, "I don't see why not." So we got on doing that, but you know what I'm saying? And then when we started, of course, geographically, it's not exactly in the right place. But you can imagine nowadays, if we'd tried to stay at Lokes Park, would have been turfed out anyway.
Of course, it must have been fascinating and so challenging to be heavily involved in that project, though.
Yes, it was. And we got a limited amount of money in order to do things, and I got at Cost, which was a building company, and they were very good, and they did it. It's all in units and so on, a bit different. And we needed a 4-sided ground, and it's finished up, and it's remarkable how it's developed. There are lots of positives and things to be proud of, really, and fortunately, this is carried through, hasn't it? Really, to the present time.
I was going to say, it must have been fantastic for you to have seen how the club's grown, and now obviously to be in the second tier of English football as well.
I'm not as enthusiastic about the second tier of English football. I'd rather be in a tier they can cope and live on their own, etc. You know, but such is the game and how it's developed. Promotion and relegation are be all and end all. But in actual fact, if you're involved in a club, it's about the survival of the club and living at the level you can afford.
But in a way, it's such a huge achievement to have seen the club, as you say, sort of get to the Football League and then to make the progress that it has.
Yes, absolutely, huge achievement. When I joined, it was in the Isthmian League, and the other interesting thing about the Isthmian League, which was that it was a league of 18 clubs when I joined Wycombe, then increased to 20. It might have then gone on to 22, but I remember the 18 clubs, and the point really was there was no promotion and relegation. So you would say, even if you were bottom of the league, like Corinthian Casuals were every year, you know, and you played them, well, good to see you, see you next season. And you knew, because there was no promotion and relegation, but there was a spirit there. We were looking forward to seeing Corinthian Casuals, even though they finished bottom.
And non-league football must be something that you're very passionate about, because I know it's something that you've been, working with for a long time as well.
Well, I think I think the joy is, and I mean, for example, when I was at Bisham Abbey, the England rugby team used to come in and for weekends to train, etc. And all the England rugby players, they all worked and did training 2 nights a week and played rugby on a Saturday. But now, of course, they're professional. I'm not sure there's a terrific difference between then and now, looking at the recent internationals.
And you must be so proud as well. I'm sure you'll be very modest, but fantastic to have received an MBE as well in recognition for what you've done.
Yes, that was a bit of a surprise, yes. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, just take a look at all the voluntary helpers in and around every club. You're talking about every club, football club, rugby club, hockey club, the voluntary helpers. And they do so much. So, yes, I was very surprised. I'm very grateful.
Do you have an overall reflection of your time, both as a manager and as a chairman of the club, as to what was achieved and the great progress that's been made?
Well, I think the word really is 2 things. I think we progressed on the field, and we got a new home off the field, as it were, the new stadium. And whilst the stadium is not in the ideal place, and I don't need reminding of that, every time I go there, it hurts me.
Sure.
When we gave up a town site for the benefit, and we then could not get the support of the councillors. And I don't know how many. I think it might be the 13th site, and 12 others have been put forward in and around Wycombe, and been turned down. So yes, I don't have much sympathy with or much pleasure from Wycombe District Council. It's just the fact that we were in such a magnificent spot before. People could walk to the ground and so on. Now, not that many can walk, so you've got to be mobile, haven't you?
No, absolutely.
And the other regret about that particularly are young players, young boys, now boys and girls now, who could walk to, if we were in the town, would be a lot easier than it is where we are now. So they have to come with somebody else, or an adult, etc. So that's a bit of an inconvenience, but overall we did the best we could.
No, definitely, and I've heard so many stories as well from talking to former players who grew up in the town and then went on to play for the club as well, which is a lovely thought.
Well, that, of course, is really what my philosophy was at the club. Wycombe Wanderers is for people in Wycombe, first and foremost. And it's only when we can't find them in Wycombe that we might go out to Marlow or Maidenhead, you know what I mean? That was my thinking. And let's make it our club, let's make it the town club. But you get, the grammar school, obviously, is rugby, so that wasn't going to produce anything. And the other schools were all in a bit of a mess. So I was disappointed with the number of local players we had, really.
And something else which is really special is the Ex-Players Association and the fact that so many different generations of players and former staff can keep in touch and share their experiences too.
The Ex-Players Association means an awful lot to the players. Who spent the time at Wycombe and made friends, and those friends you just don't make for football, you make for life, and there are a lot of them. So that's one of the big pluses, and that's why I think Wycombe is a bit of a family club.
And that's something obviously which has been especially noticeable in this last 12-month period as well, that people can stay in touch and
exactly, particularly during this time when people are of vulnerable ages and get a bit depressed.
Yeah, no. Hopefully you've been well in the last 12 months. And
yes. Unfortunately, I have, and so I think I've had COVID. I didn't know I'd had it, but I think I've been told I've had it.
Hopefully you've had the vaccination as well.
I've had the vaccination, yes.
Do you feel immune now?
Yes. I feel fine. It didn't affect the nightly gin and tonic. It's all right.
Oh, that'll be the better medication for you, I should think.
Absolutely right.
It must be fascinating as well how football management has changed. Even in your time, we've spoken to again former players who your predecessors would have offered them rations of bacon and tea at half time if they'd done well. Apparently, I don't know if that's something you kept up.
I mean, the point of my predecessors. I mean, when I went there, I had to attend the selection committee meeting on the Monday. I said, what do you mean, a selection committee? Well, the selection committee meet at 8 o'clock every Monday, select the teams for you. I said, pardon? And of course they wanted a coach. And I said, I don't want, I'm not a coach, I'm a manager. A manager, there's a big difference. A manager can't be the coach, but a coach can't be the manager. So they understood eventually. And then he said, meet and we select him. No, I said, just a minute, I'm the manager, I shall be selecting the team. But I agreed to meet them, and I think I met them twice on a Monday at 8 o'clock because they knew the players, I didn't know them. So obviously I took their advice at that time, but obviously I did learn in a couple of weeks enough to make my own decisions. So I met on the third Monday. I said, gentlemen, I said, next Monday, 8 o'clock, we can all go to the pub. And then I selected, saying, you can't be a manager and let somebody else select the team. How daft is that? And it's interesting because I was also a friend of Walter Winterbottom, who was the England manager. And he was England manager from 1946 to 1962, and he never ever selected an England team. It was only when Sir Alf Ramsey came in, or Alpha came in, that he had the same attitude as I had, or I had the same attitude as Alf.
So how would you describe your management style? Because I guess there's managing in terms of obviously the football and the tactics, but also managing the players as well.
Well, I think I was very focused on the style of play I wanted to play. Therefore, the players had specific jobs to fit into the tactical pattern of play. And then I think that was most important. I was very dogmatic and very self-centred, I'm afraid, about the players. And I ruled them a bit. And most of them accepted it. those that didn't, fortunately, didn't achieve. But they got used to the style. I mean, interesting, because when I was running Bisham Abbey, clubs used to come and stay for a few days special training. And one of the clubs who used to come in quite often was Derby County with Brian Clough. And so got to know him and his style of management and so on. And yes, okay, I'll have a bit of it, not all of it.
Great to speak to Brian Lee, former manager and chairman, and the man who oversaw the move from Lokes Park to Adams Park. And fantastic to hear that he had connections with former England managers Walter Winterbottom and Alf Ramsey as well.
Absolutely fascinating interview, and someone who probably completely encapsulates the whole of Wycombe's more recent history. The fact that he went back that far and then all the way to the moving of the grounds and whatever, just absolutely fascinating.
Brilliant. I'm off to practice saying Walter Winterbottom, and we'll hear from Emily Hagan in the third part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show here at Wycombe Sound.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, and one of the many good things about doing the show is you get to hear from the current manager, you get to hear from current players, you get to hear from former players, but also we take a behind-the-scenes look, if you like, at what goes on at Adams Park.
I particularly enjoyed Will the Chef.
Will the Chef was good, although unfortunately his mobile phone reception rather let him down.
It was, but his brownies sound amazing.
Apparently they're to die for.
Yes.
So, yeah, hopefully we'll get him back to talk about his brownies.
Definitely when he can come into the studio, that would be nice. With brownies, yes. So is this if you're ever anybody related to any food at all and you're going into a radio studio, it's very rude to not then bring the food with you.
And earlier in our series we spoke to Harry Gadd as well, who's tasked with spreading the word internationally as well.
Oh yes, the worldwide Wycombe Wanderers phenomenon.
Congratulations, you said that much better than I said Walter Winterbottom.
Yes, and you're the person who reads the football results, so you should be able to do that.
That's a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, it is rather. We still haven't had a good discussion about you reading the football results and how you came to have this, illustrious job that only about 3 people in the entire country actually do.
I know, it's strange how I kind of fell into it. It was a similar process for when I got to do the ground announcing at Wycombe Wanderers. That's another good story for another day.
Exactly. Okay, you're just teasing us.
Yes.
You're making sure that people listen to all of the Wycombe Wanderers shows on the podcast.
If you're interested in those sort of stories,
reveal the secret about how he reads the football results and also how he got to be the announcer at Adams Park. He doesn't do it anymore, but he used to.
Yes. It was during the BSD crisis, and I remember that lamb burgers were replaced by beef burgers, and I did it in exactly the same way as you'd announced a substitution, which was quite funny.
You've definitely said that to me about 5 times. I can't remember if you've ever said it on air before that.
No, I don't think I have. That's why I've done it. Yeah. Sorry. Apologies to anyone who's heard that winning anecdote before. Someone else who we've been speaking to, though, is the club's Commercial Operations Executive, a title which, regrettably, I forgot earlier on today as well, Emily Hagan, who, I'll let her tell you.
My sort of exact role, I guess, is going to be matchday hospitality, matchday experience, anything commercial, operational wise, so dealing with sponsors when they're here and looking after them, making sure they get all their deliverables and anything really that can bring in money. I'm involved in the shop. It's really hard sort of to put one sort of title on it, but it came about in the summer, and Pete wanted Rob's idea for the club is to be able to make money 365 days a year, where no matter what league we're in, how we're performing, etc. So it's all about making the business as profitable as possible, and the best way to do that is with an events company. So we have got a third-party events company working for us, and I was sort of brought in as a Wycombe member of staff to liaise between the club, the events company, the caterers, to make sure that we really are maximising the space, because Adams Park's got so many venues and so much potential that it's silly to see it shut for 6 days a week or whatever it might be. So essentially that is the idea, and hopefully come June, July, we'll be able to start that up properly rather than me just doing little bits here and there when it's legally possible.
I was going to say, how restrictive has the pandemic been on what you've tried to or want to do?
It's been hard. It's been really hard, and I do feel really lucky that I'm even still here in a way, because not many events companies or event staff are still employed or still on furlough. So I do feel really lucky that I've been able to sort of lend my lend my hand in other areas whilst this has been going on, because we got a sniff of it in December. We had the fans back. We held a business club event for our Business at Adams Park launch. We had a couple of meetings here, but again, nothing on any scale. We did have a lifestyle show, but that was heavily run by our events company. But again, that all happened in the space of about 10 days, and then it was taken away again. So we sort of got a sniff, and at the moment really is just a case of monitoring changes every day, planning ahead, understanding the sort of environment we're going to be in, because we can do little bits in April, then we can do a little bit more in May, and then we can do a lot more in June, hopefully. But will there be some restrictions, and what will those restrictions be? And you're sort of planning all the time for different eventualities, and essentially it's tough. It is tough, and we're just lucky that we've got the Courigs that want it to happen still and are really pushing for it, because like I said, so many events companies now are struggling and out of work, and it's been a difficult year, but I just feel very fortunate that I've been part of it this year. It was such an exciting season for the club anyway. It's a shame that the fans haven't been here as much as we'd have hoped, but it's just a lot of planning rather than a lot of doing.
But it must be a really exciting time to be involved with the club, especially at the championship status, and so much interest around the club as well.
The interest has been great, sponsorship wise. It's been a real big boost for the club, and everyone seems to still refer to it as Little Wycombe, and that's just not how we feel anymore. So I think it's really exciting. It's been an exciting year. I wasn't here for previously, so I can't say exactly the differences, but the biggest shame is that we haven't been able to share it with all the fans. But let's just look forward to next year and hope we can bring them back to championship football as soon as possible. It
must be really nice for you as well to be in this kind of early stage in your career, yet having such a great, interesting and such a challenging job.
Yeah, it's definitely a throw you in at the deep end kind of job. Had experience in event operations at Wembley and Tottenham and Charlton, but never in the sort of level that I am now. I was never the behind the scenes planning of them. I was just very much on the day operational. I have been thrown in the deep end. It's quite a juggle with my masters and working 3 days a week, but you work 3 days a week, but the job doesn't stop on the 2 days you're not in. So every Wednesday you come in and it's like, all right, catch up on what happened for the last 2 days, and then we'll carry on. So yeah, it's been a bit of a juggle. It's been a very exciting season. It's absolutely flown by. And like I said, I just feel very fortunate to have been given the opportunity, and at such an early stage in my career to be given so much responsibility is just, I'm just so grateful.
And just so many different aspects of the club for you to experience as well. And I know you did a bit of match report writing at last night's game as well. How was that?
Yeah, so managed to wangle my way into the media team last night for an away day, and I just wanted to be able to help Matt in any way, because he is a one-man band most of the time. We have now got Alicia, which is a great addition, and I just offered it about 15 minutes before kickoff. I said, I'll give it a go. Then I sat there and thought, hang on a minute, I've never written a match report or even read one, so I had a quick read of some previous ones as quickly as I could, but no, I really enjoyed it. It was very stressful. I feel like the game lasted about 15 minutes because I was just concentrating so hard. And again, you wouldn't get that experience at any other club. So again, that's why I feel so grateful that I've had that chance, because that's not something you can just slip into at a Premier League club. You can't just all of a sudden go along and write a match report. So yeah, definitely an experience, one to add to the profile. But yeah, no, really good. And Matt was happy with it, which I wasn't expecting him to use it. I was just expecting to write it and it'd be just so I wasn't a spare part on the day. But there we are on the website.
And something else you're doing, which is really nice, I think, is speaking at the Women in Sport conference as well, which sounds fantastic. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so my university hold an annual Women in Sport conference. It's actually at a conference that I attended in my first year, and a couple of weeks ago I just got I got an email to ask me to be a guest speaker, and I just assumed I was on sort of a student panel of discussion, but it turns out I'm talking about sort of an early careers for women in sport, and it's something that I'm obviously very passionate about, getting more women in football. And I don't think there's much of a big sort of shock when a woman works in sport now, and I think that's great, but it's still a difference. So I think getting the voices out and making people aware that we can do it and we do it well. So I think it's really important for girls young girls as well to see people at school. I've always been sporty, but it was always, you can be a PE teacher, or you can do sports science, or you can do this. And I think UCFB really gave me that opportunity I did a sports business and sports law degree, which never was on your radar at secondary school, because it just wasn't the done thing, I guess, and it wasn't common. So I think UCFB have really changed the sort of landscape for women in sport, and so to be asked to talk is just such an honour, and I am really very nervous, but I'm really looking forward to it. So another amazing experience.
It must be a real sense of pride as well, having done the study and sort of done all the uni work for it, but now actually to have a role and a job which is actually going to put that into practice as well. Yeah,
100%. Like I said, I did 3 years of a sports law degree, and now halfway through a sports management master. So it's really interesting now, especially with the sport management, that you're learning things in the classroom on a Monday and a Tuesday, but I'm coming to work on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and actually being able to use them straight away. And I do think experience is just the best way to learn, especially for me. I'm such a doer. So the things I've learned this year are just second to none. And again, I just feel so grateful to Pete and Neil and to all the management team at Wycombe that I'm here still, and I get such this, like Matt giving me the opportunity last night. So just to learn on the job is great. It really is.
It must be great to have such variety as well.
It's definitely a lot of different things going on. Like I said, we're always involved. We're such a small office team. We're always involved in all the discussions. So whether it's season ticket refunds, whether it's media opportunities, whether it's commercial, new sponsors, new partners, new match day protocols, new anything like that, you're always involved. And I think that's just so special for someone at this stage in their career. We've got a young team. 4 of us are all from UCFB, all newly graduated. So to have that variety, it just really helps you to. I always thought I'm going to go into events and that's all I ever want to do. And now I've had a commercial, I'm thinking, I quite like that, and I quite like the sort of buzz of new partners and new opportunities and bringing money into the club. So I think it really does help sort of open your eyes to so many different opportunities.
The Wycombe Wanderers Commercial Operations Executive, Emily Hagan, speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound, and fantastic to hear, such a kind of young person, if you like, getting their opportunity and being so involved with a club who, got promoted to the Championship. Must be so exciting.
And really interesting to hear actually just how small the team is. Again, I think we all know that actually, and I know we've said it a lot about the playing side, but that actually the club is one of the obviously smaller ones in the Championship, both in terms of the playing staff they have, but just actually in terms of the general staff. And to hear Emily say that, that actually they're involved in all of the discussions and all of the decisions, really, really interesting insight into her life in the offices at Adams Park.
The playing side seems to be the one person who hasn't been involved in yet.
That's true, yes, you never know. She might be one of the 5 subs on Saturday against Stoke.
Fantastic to get the opportunity to speak to her. So it's really nice to get kind of behind the scenes feel at the club as well.
Yes, that's we're doing quite well. We're on that and on the ex-players as well. We're very grateful to both the club and the Ex-Players Association for all the interviews that they have allowed us to do during the season. No, definitely, and brilliant to sort of chart the progress as well of the team, both on and off the pitch. Looking ahead to the next game, of course, Stoke, a team. Well, all of the games that we were playing at the moment are teams we played before, but we were saying that Stoke was one of the clubs or one of the teams that we played against with actual fans. It was the first fans. It was the 1,000 fans returning to the stadium. So it was the test event held all the way back on the 2nd of December, which seems like a long time ago now, when we lost 1-0 that night. Seem to remember that we played okay. We again, one of those games that we competed in, but didn't actually quite get the result in the end. Stoke recently sort of doing okay. So their most recent game, they lost last night 2-1 to Swansea City. Before that, a couple more losses to Brentford and Barnsley, but they did beat Luton Town 3-0, Sheffield Wednesday 1-0 earlier on in February. So yeah, a bit of an inconsistent side, but we are going to have to be very, very good, I think, to beat them on Saturday. I was going to say, quite hot and cold, aren't they? Yeah, very much so. And then, of course, after that, we play Queen's Park Rangers, who seem to be the ultimate hot and cold team in the division at the moment, where they seem to have a bad run, and you think, goodness me, they're doing really badly. And then they have a couple of eye-wateringly good results, and then some bad ones again. So let's hope that we are one of the eye-wateringly bad results for Queen's Park Rangers. We play them next Tuesday, 7 p.m. kickoff at Loftus Road.
And of course, that was the game we were due to play, which was unfortunately called off when we were having a bit of a good run, especially starting with that Preston win.
Yeah, indeed. And interestingly, then the following Saturday, we then host Preston again at Adams Park. Obviously, this time in the Championship, having already beaten them 4-1 in the FA Cup. And you do again feel just slightly that actually, had those games not been cancelled or postponed due to COVID, that might have been the start of actually, something amazing. Just such a shame that those got postponed.
Oh, if only I was more superstitious. Certainly a feeling of optimism going forward. Join us at the same time next week. Check out the podcast as well.